I mean, I used to be a personality assessment junkie. So I've taken a lot of them. And what I notice about all of them is they kind of, while it's better than nothing, I will put that out there. And if you're using something like that, fantastic. You're already a step a bit ahead in your company, in your relationships, but they tend to put you in a box.
Your business's success depends on relationships with customers, relationships with employees, and relationships with stakeholders. What do they all have in common? They're all human. Because no matter if your business is B2B or B2C, it's really H to H, human to human. Welcome to the Human Connection Podcast. I'm your host, Karl Pontau. Each week I bring you stories, insights, and practical advice from experts that you can apply to your growing company and daily life. This week I'm really excited to connect with Brandon Gano. Brandon is a serial entrepreneur with several business failures and multiple exits and mergers. Now, after the most recent acquisition, he is the COO of HumanOp, a one-of-a-kind company dedicated to helping businesses optimize their people and leadership teams so they can experience rapid and sustainable growth. Congrats on HumanOp and welcome to the Human Connection Podcast.
Thank you, Karl. Very, very excited to be here. I'm all about human. It's in the company name, so this is a natural fit. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, I love what you guys are doing because it seems like for the last decade or so, companies have been so focused on using tech and data and other things to try and streamline and make things more efficient and kind of cut corners and speed up the process of growing their business and getting sales and stuff like that. And they've often been at the expense of human connection. But it seems like what you and your team are doing is finding a way to use technology to actually enhance human connection within teams at companies. So I'd love to hear more about how you're doing that and the impact it's had, because I think it's something that a lot of companies need to focus on more.
Absolutely. And, I mean, you mentioned it in my bio. I've failed in business. I've succeeded in business. I've sold businesses, closed them, and had mergers and acquisitions. At the center of all of those was the human connection. And that's, my successes were due to great human connections and my failures were due to the lack of human connection. So we can't overlook this topic at all. I love that you're bringing it to the forefront here with your show. And if you look at HumanOp and the HumanOp purpose, this technology has been around for 20 years. So I'll give you the short version here. One of our co-founders discovered the technology. She didn't even create it. She just observed nature and said, there's something here. There are patterns to the way people, plants, animals show up. She was able to codify that, put it into an algorithm. And what evolved is the HumanOp we have today, where we're putting that algorithm into an app, a B2C model. It's on the App Store as of right now, actually. We have a B2B model. And our whole mission is to help people understand themselves first, to honor who they are at their core, how they were created. So you don't have to try to be like someone else or try to be something you're not and strain yourself and burn yourself out. After that, you can then start to understand others and appreciate others for the way they're naturally designed. And when you can do those two things, you can mitigate conflict, you can perform better in your job, in your relationships, you can have better relationships. Anything that involves the human being can just be better. It can be easier, it can feel better, it can work better. So that's really our mission, is to help humanity evolve. And that's the big vision. But to get there is one step at a time, one human being at a time. Let's understand ourselves and be a little bit more compassionate to how we treat ourselves.
I think there's a lot of stress and conflict in the workplace that comes from people who, it stems from people not feeling like they can be authentic with themselves at work. They have to kind of put on a mask or put on an act. And that is mentally draining and emotionally draining. And it's hard because you don't really connect with people, and all that distance, that lack of vulnerability, the lack of authenticity means that your relationships aren't as strong. And it's those relationships that are needed for the business to work. And so when issues do arise, which they inevitably will, the lack of self-awareness and the lack of understanding of other people and how they're feeling, how they're working, just leads to these otherwise avoidable conflicts if people are just more in touch with who they are and understanding of how other people are and able to respect that because they just have the skills and the language to communicate more effectively.
Absolutely. And that's a lot of times we don't even know how we're coming across, how we're communicating, and then of course how others are perceiving us. There are some people who are super efficient with their communication and they want to get right to the point. And there's other people who that just doesn't resonate with them. They want to hear the story. They want to connect emotionally. They want to feel involved with whatever's going on. Maybe they want more input in decisions that are being made. And when we go around blindly like that, it's almost like you're running with scissors, right? It's like you know, as a kid, we always tell our kids, like, don't run with scissors because we know the danger of doing that. What could go wrong if something does go wrong could be disastrous. We're effectively doing that as human beings because we don't even know what we have. We don't know how we're being perceived by others. Not that you should alter your communication style or who you are really to benefit somebody else, but you should be aware of how to talk to people or how to maybe be more well received by others. There are little things that we can all do to connect with more people at any one time. I mean, for example, I don't know who's listening to this podcast. There could be 10 million different people listening to this podcast. That'd be awesome for you, right? And for me, to best communicate with everybody, I need to be aware of how others might be perceiving me. So I can either enhance that, I can soften that, I can be in a particular trait or style at any given moment. If I go through life blindly and I am who I am and I own it, so to speak, that there's a big movement around that of just own who you are, you're running with scissors essentially. And you don't even know who you could potentially be cutting. You don't know what relationships you could be severing. And that's just dangerous. I would never want to do that.
Yeah, I think there's a misconception that being authentic is a license to be a jerk or an asshole.
Yeah.
And it's not. It's you need to have authenticity and empathy and understanding of how who you are impacts other people and because it's not just knowing what you're trying to say, it's knowing how people are receiving it or if it's being received at all. And especially this applies for marketing as big thing is a lot of companies putting out a ton of content and it doesn't work because they feel like they're saying X, but people are receiving it and interpreting it as Y. And if you're not listening to other people and reading their body language, or you don't care about what they think and feel about what you're saying and who you are, that is a problem. It needs to be a two-way street. And so when people need to show up authentically at work and be more vulnerable and connect with people in order to stop running with scissors and understand how they're showing up and just be more mindful about it. It always is being authentic to who they are and true to themselves with the understanding of the impact they're having on other people and caring about that impact. And it's when people don't care about the impact they have on others and just want to be true to themselves, that's where they crosses that line that leads to behavior that's not productive, not healthy. But you can't, in an attempt to not upset anyone, you can't hide yourself away because then you go too far in the other direction. You don't connect. You don't really. You close yourself off from seeing other people and being able to communicate effectively. So it's finding that middle ground, and it's never. There's no one size fits all thing for every single relationship, but you have to start by understanding yourself. And it sounds like the human op process and this tool is one that helps at least give people that better sense of where they are starting from so they can build on a strong foundation. Whereas if you're building off a foundation of who you think other people want you to be, that's going to create this inner tension that ends up destroying your emotional and mental health because you're not building it from a source of authenticity.
Absolutely. And I always, the question usually comes up, is this a personality assessment, or is this like X personality assessment in Myers-Briggs, Enneagram, DISC? I mean, I used to be a personality assessment junkie. So I've taken a lot of them. And what I notice about all of them is they kind of, while it's better than nothing, I will put that out there. And if you're using something like that, fantastic. You're already a step ahead in your company, in your relationships, but they tend to put you in a box. Enneagram has numbers, Myers-Briggs has the letters. And I remember from my Myers-Briggs analysis, if you will, or assessment, it came back, I forget the letters, to be honest with you, but it was like the architect is the type of person. So there's 16 different options you could be in. And that, for me, it always felt weird. Like, that was, looking back, that was what I was nurtured into. It was like someone who focuses on the details of things and likes to put things together. And I was like, yeah, there's some accuracy to that. And again, you feel like you feel seen, it gets you, and you're like, oh, cool, I can relate to this thing. Take a few steps forward. When I first interacted with the human op technology, this was about 3 years ago at this point, well after Myers-Briggs, that was actually one minor part of my vehicle, so to speak, my vehicle of self, that I had no idea. Like, it was actually so limiting for me in the context of a workplace and in building my business at the time when I first did it, that looking back, I see how everything connected. I was playing small. I was only focused on the details, and it was draining me. It drove me to a point of burnout several times over the course of building my first business. And I look at all the things that the human op analysis allowed me to step into, to be a leader, to delegate more, to connect with others at a deeper level, because I truly understood myself first. I knew where to connect with people. I knew how to connect with other people. That both honored myself, but then honored them as well. That put that extra layer of icing on the cake, so to speak, because I knew what would drain me, what would fuel me. I knew what to stay away from. I knew how to build my business in alignment with myself so I didn't burn out. So is it like other personality assessments? Yeah, kind of, but it's so much bigger. It's so much different. We're able to basically give you the whole picture of yourself, whereas they really only zoom in on one little tiny piece. And then after that, we tell you what to do with it. It's not just like, here's your results, here's who you are. It's okay, how do you optimize now? How do you continue to up level and evolve and step into that next level of business owner or entrepreneur, or husband or wife or parent? We want to tell people how to take the next steps and use the information to truly move forward and optimize their life, rather than just saying this is the box that you're stuck in for the rest of your life.
Yeah, I think that's a great distinction to make with these assessments, is that people think that once you've taken it, that's who you are forever. And it's such a dangerous mindset to get in, that you're not done growing or changing or learning or evolving as a human being. Because especially these days, with how much the world changes, and with technology and relationships and stuff, knowing that, like, where you're at now, but what you can take, where you should focus to grow yourself and to keep improving, and where you might need to, like, delegate work or find someone who can help you out, who has a complementary skill set or could be a good mentor for you. And it's that mindset of constant improvement and growth that, especially in the professional world, is absolutely necessary. And I think even in the kind of personal relationship space is really important, because it'll keep your relationships interesting and healthy. Because I think that's one of the great things about life and entrepreneurship and business, is that there's always more to learn, more to grow. And the danger of taking an assessment is thinking that once you get the results, that's who you are, and you're locked into it. And I like that there's this, okay, here's who you are now. So you have that self-awareness and that mindfulness. Now here's what you should be doing to build better relationships and what you might want to work on to grow. And there's sometimes you want to focus on improving some of your things you're not so good at, but also you want to maybe just lean in more of your strengths, because that's going to get you more of an ROI than trying to be a jack of all trades sort of thing, and with your skill set or your ability. So just having the mindfulness of where you are and what your goals are is really valuable, but you got to keep growing after that. And I think that's one of the problems with some like the DISC and the Enneagram and stuff, that, oh, I'm a this, now I'm in this box and I'm only able to do the things that like this box says I can do, where it's really, no, that's where you're at. Now think about where you want to get to, and then how do you make that transition? What do you need to focus on to grow?
Yeah. And one of the things that we've done with our clients, so you can actually do this if you're listening without having taken our assessment or any other for that matter. I want you to think about a triangle, and there's 3 sides to the triangle, and there's 3 sides of sort of making decisions and executing in your business. So we have 70, 30, 0. You have 70% of your time should be spent on one of the pieces, 30% on another, and 0 on the third. And the 3 pieces are very simply the vision, the decision, and the execution. And what I mean by that is within every single role or leadership capacity, if you're overseeing a department, or even if you're just overseeing a very small team and there's at least 3 people on that team, you should have an equal balance of these 3 parts. Somebody should be 70 in each one of them. Somebody should be a 30 in each one of them, and then you should have a 0 in each one of them. So for me personally, my personal makeup as the COO of Human Up, I am 70% execution, I am 30% decision, I am 0% vision, excuse me. Don't ever ask me to go to the future and see 5, 10 years out. It drains me. It absolutely just drains my energy. It's fun to be creative, but when you ask me to see the future and try to put the pieces together to get there, very, very exhausting for me. And I noticed that after I do those things, because as human beings, we try to do all things, right? It's our greatest strength and our greatest weakness all at the same time. I just feel exhausted. I have to like almost go take a nap or just do meaningless work for the rest of the day. That's my way of identifying, I really shouldn't be there. I shouldn't be spending my time there. Making decisions. I spend about 30% of my time there. That's as a COO, people come at me with questions, asking for resources, how to allocate certain resources. Pretty easy and effortless for me to make those decisions. I can do it for a pretty long period of time, or repeatedly throughout the day, and it doesn't really drain me. But the magic for me is figuring out, okay, so one of our co-founders and our CEO, they are great at the vision. Like if they could live there, they would. They tell me where they want to be in 5 years, 10 years, 1 year. And they say, okay, here's where we want to be, make it happen. So the 70% of my time is saying, all right, knowing that we want to go there and seeing all the pieces on the chessboard today, how do we best get from where we are to where they say we want to be with as little time, capital, and human resource or human energy as possible in the best way possible? That's what lights me up. That's why I spend 70% of my time there. So knowing those 3 things of what drives me, what drains me, and what's sort of the right in the middle. It's not gonna burn me out, but probably shouldn't do it all of the time. If you can identify those 3 pieces in your role in your business, you can already start to optimize yourself, because you're then delegating that 0. You're giving that to somebody else. It's understanding the human component of what is it about you where you're uniquely gifted, so you can drive the business forward, you can keep yourself optimized, and you can let others shine when they need to step up to the plate and be more of the decision, the do, or the vision. So that little matrix is really helped a lot of our clients stay in their lane, grow their business, and also keep themselves optimized. Does that land? Does that make
Yeah,
sense?
it
Have you noticed that with
makes so
yourself?
much sense. Makes so much sense because I think a lot of times, especially people that are used to being the doers, they get like promoted to a leadership role, don't know how to delegate, and I think they still do all the execution stuff when really they need to be focusing on the decisions or the vision.
Hmm.
And so that piece of advice for leaders is, if you're going to lead, you need to, if you're even going to take a leadership role, you need to know that your 70% of your time needs to be on the vision and like 30% decision and 0% on the execution. But if you keep trying to do 70% of all three of those things, you're going to run out because you don't have 210% of your time. And so, and your team's going to be struggling because you're expecting them to do things that aren't their strengths. And so having that simple 3 categories makes a lot of sense for leaders who are wanting to optimize the human aspect of their teams, because you need to understand where on that triangle they need to be spending their time and how their teams can best spend their time. So I think it's a super valuable tip that people can take away from the episode. So thank you so much for connecting with me today, Brandon. If you enjoyed this episode of the Human Connection podcast, please like, leave a review, and share it. If you'd like to connect with myself or Brandon, please check out the links in the show notes. And remember, no matter if your business is B2B or B2C, it's really H to H, human to human. Happy connecting.